It was actually 13 years ago, coming up 14 years ago, 1997 was when he was killed. He was hit by a car, he was walking home. Sounds bizarre, but he quite often used to lay on the road and look at the stars. And this particular night, I think he was walking home from being out with friends, and it was about 3 in the morning. And he would have done the same thing, but not realising that he actually wasn't on the side of the road. And he was hit by a car and hit by a truck also. And that was round about 3:30 in the morning. I wasn't informed at all of what had happened until my son rang me while I was at work. And my son, who was 15 at the time, called me and said he'd heard that Abe had been involved in an accident. And for some strange reason, I did have a feeling that something was wrong anyway. So I rang some of his friends and they said that they'd heard the same thing. And this was round about 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and I worked in the bank, and I was out in the back room, and I rang all his friends, and then I started to ring the police and started to ring hospitals. And they hadn't heard of anything, and then I don't even recall how I retrieved the numbers, how I got the numbers. I just recall calling the coroner's office, and I just said that I believe my son was involved in an accident, and he asked me his name, and I told him, and he just came back and said, yeah, he's here. So yeah, that's how I found out that my son had died, and that was at about 4:30 in the afternoon on Valentine's Day. So I'd spent all day just oblivious that my son was actually dead. People were told, I found out since, but people were told that that the couple of friends had arrived, but they were told to not mention it to the family until they had told us. And up until now they still haven't informed me. But in the meantime, by the time I was driven home by the police from work, my son of 15 had already been visited by the police, and he had been told. And he was at home looking after his 11-year-old brother, and he was told that his brother had been killed. So I wasn't even there to support my son, both my sons, when that had happened. So that was very, very difficult. It was appalling. It was appalling the way we were informed. It was appalling the fact that the young man in the coroner's office just came back and said, yeah, he's here. I know, I realise that's his job, but that was my son. That was my precious boy, and that was how I was told. But I just feel, you know, obviously the circumstances, there aren't many people that do lay on the road, and I do understand that. But the bottom line is he had all his identification on him, and I could have been informed in the morning, you know. I went off to work not knowing anything, apparently, unusually I normally listen to the radio, but it was announced on the radio that an unidentified man was killed on the road up in that area, and it was in the Herald Sun, in the early morning Herald Sun, which I didn't have. But I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear it. It was on television as well. For some unknown reason, I was just busy that morning, and I didn't listen to the radio or the news, and I didn't hear it. But for whatever reasons, it was still appalling the way we were told. Yeah. I'd firstly like to reassure them that the first part of the journey, which is horrific, and the physical pain that they feel and it's real, that initially what they're feeling will eventually ease, but to really embrace, if they have any, you know, if they have remaining children, just to embrace what they have and to truly cherish, which we all do anyway, but sometimes we sort of wonder and we worry a little bit, especially when they become teenagers, we worry a little bit about, you know, what will so-and-so think if he wears things like that, or, you know, sometimes we get caught up too much about what other people think, and we miss the true beauty of what we have. And I just, I would like to say to anyone out there who's just experienced it, yes, it is dreadful. That very, very initial journey is absolutely horrific, but treasure and accept the warmth and love that you receive, and acknowledge what you receive from your children just by being their children and by being their parent, and to fully just appreciate them, because it's a terrible, terrible thing to happen when they go. And whilst you love them while they're there, sometimes you don't truly, truly appreciate everything, be it good or bad, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's it.